Welcome back to The Long Way Home. I'm your host, Josh Bearheart Hawk, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking a little bit about holidays in the spirit of the holiday season. I wanted to kind of dive deep and talk a little bit about what the holidays were like for me growing up in the 90s, a little bit in the 80s, but mostly the 90s and the 2000s, and kind of getting into present day a little bit, but mostly about growing up because the holidays, they don't feel as big as they used to feel. And I don't think I'm the only one that feels this way. Using the word feeling a lot, but I don't know another word for it right now, because as I look at the holiday season for 2023, while it's kind of exciting in a way, it's also not as exciting. And I don't know how much of that is because, when I was a kid, it was just more exciting because I was a kid, and how much of that is because the way the world has changed. I think a lot of it, because I feel that I get the sense from other people and the way things are talked about that the holidays have kind of lost their luster for a lot of people in the past 20 or 30 years. And a lot of that probably due to the fact that we've been through, global recessions and wars and terrorist attacks and, you name it, we've been through it in the past. and right now, especially in 2023, we have some major wars going on and potentially things that could blow up and get even worse, as well as an economic downturn. Like, there's all these things that, I think make the holidays today not as exciting, not as fun. They aren't looked forward to as much by people, myself included. So I wanted to kind of reflect on the holidays as a kid and what the differences were and kind of dig deep into that kind of stuff. And we'll start with Christmas because it's the one that's coming up. Depending on when this comes out, when you're listening to this, we're coming up on Christmas 2023. And I'm recording this before Thanksgiving, but it'll probably come out after Thanksgiving. So we'll start with Christmas. And for me as a kid, Christmas was like the holiday. It was a huge deal in our house. Decorations up everywhere. My mom went all out every single year for Christmas. She would decorate lights everywhere. I can't even express. I've seen houses that are decorated more than she decorated, but that was, I think, mostly because we didn't have the space to decorate more, and we honestly didn't have the money to decorate more. When I was really young, of course, Santa Claus was the one bringing the presents. So we would decorate every year, and just the whole house, it just felt special, for the entire, right after Thanksgiving, usually the weekend after is when the decorations would go up, the tree would go up, everything was going, it was amazing. And we get to the night before Christmas, we're all excited. And I remember, it was a tradition that started when I was a kid, and we kind of carried it on when I became a parent. We would unwrap, we would get one present to unwrap on Christmas Eve. And somehow magically it was always a new set of pajamas. And as a kid, I'm like, how is it every year this is what I get? This doesn't make any sense to me. Not realizing, of course, that my mother, of course, she's the one that wrapped it, so she knew what was what, But at the time, it was just so special and magical. And then, of course, we put out the cookies and the milk and all that kind of stuff. And come down the next morning, and I remember so many Christmas mornings of because we would be anxious to get out of bed. And I didn't know it at the time, of course, but my mom and my father and my dad had just gone to bed. And we were up, it's 6:00 in the morning. We're ready to go open presents, and they had just laid down. And just that emotion and that excitement that's there. And then, of course, you got to wait, because then my mom loved to build anticipation. She'd go downstairs, and she had some bayberry candles. She had to light a bayberry candle every year for Christmas and New Year's. It was something to do with luck. I don't know the full story behind how those things work, but she would light one every year, and it had to burn all the way down, one on Christmas and one on New Year's. So she would go downstairs and she'd do that, and she'd make some coffee, and we're all standing at the top of the stairs just waiting. As me and my brother's anticipating, when can we go downstairs? And we get to finally get to come downstairs and walk around, and we just see presents everywhere. And I didn't know it then, but we were, we weren't doing good financially. We struggled when I was a kid. just to make ends meet, to pay bills. So every year for Christmas, my grandma would be the one actually paying for most of the Christmas stuff using a credit card, and then my mom would pay her back throughout the year. And I don't know that that would have made a difference. To me, it was Santa Claus brought the presents, and I look at it differently now as an adult, looking back, like, oh my God, all of these magical days, all these great things. It's the one day of the year you get all these presents and everything, and there was the struggle behind getting there. As a parent, I can't imagine what she went through. Now, we had some hard times when I became a parent. There's some Christmases that were really hard for us that we got some help with. I think it's just kind of a struggle for young new parents, especially when you start young. And I didn't ever imagine my parents being that young until I got in their position. But every year they never failed to make it magical. It was always something special. It was always a huge event. I'll never forget the year I found out Santa Claus wasn't real, because that was the year we did all the normal stuff. We got our pajamas and put out cookies and milk and everything, and we go upstairs. And after a few minutes, my father comes in and he's like, "Hey, come downstairs for a minute." I'm like, okay. So I go downstairs, and my mom and grandma were in the kitchen, and my father's like, "So I wanted to tell you, like, Santa Claus isn't real. Me and your mother are Santa Claus, and we get all the presents for you guys out and everything." I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, can I have the cookies?" Like, I didn't care. I kind of had an inkling that, like, there was something suspicious going on. I was probably 8 years old. I wasn't very old, but I had this idea that, like, maybe there's something weird going on, something suspicious here. And that was what it was. So I'm like, okay, Santa's not real. Can I have the cookies? That's all I cared about. And it felt cool being the oldest child and having this secret now, because every year for the next 2 years, I had the secret that my brothers didn't know. That, Santa Claus wasn't real, but they still thought it. So every year at Christmas, it became like this fun thing for me. And, that didn't change a whole lot after my mom and dad got divorced and my mom and father got divorced. We'll get into that in another episode, but then she got remarried, and, Christmases didn't really change a whole lot over the next few years. Even up to like the last Christmas before my mom passed away was still a big event. She was sick that year, and it was still a big event, mostly for my little sister, but like, it was just a fun thing for my entire childhood. It was just fun Christmases. One thing I won't forget, I had wanted a guitar for years, and that was one big thing that they asked me. I was probably 14. I want to say I was 14 or 15. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but I finally got a guitar, and I was so excited about that. And I found out later that what had happened was, because my mom was on dialysis, and they had a thing through the hospital that basically they would go out and they would get gifts for anybody who was in need for the kids and stuff. So they had given these people this list of, like, these are the things that the kids ask for, not expecting to get most of it, because, most of the time those things are just like, well, here's a bunch of stuff and we'll do the best we can. They actually went out and got everything on the list. Like, it was insane. I think there was even like a game system on their Xbox. Like, it was crazy. And so, and I got the guitar, but what I found out was they had got me a guitar through the hospital, but then mom and dad had gone out and got me a guitar, and the guitar they had got me was actually nicer. So they wound up giving back the guitar the hospital had given us, and I got the guitar they'd got me. And I was so happy with that. That was like the coolest thing ever. And to this day, I regret losing that guitar. It was, I had pictures all over it. I decorated it, it was my guitar, and I'd taken it up to a friend's house one year, around Christmas time. They had a thing. We just went up to their house to hang out, and I was playing the guitar. We were having a good time, and we went to leave, and it was right after we had, I think we only had our oldest daughter. I don't remember if the other one was, we have two daughters. I don't know. I don't remember which one, if we had both of them or if just the oldest one, but we were getting at least one kid in the car. I put the guitar out next to the car, and pulled away, forgot to put it in the trunk, pulled away. I to this day don't know what happened to it. Somebody grabbed it after I left, and I have no clue what happened to it. So, that's a huge thing. A little off the topic of Christmas, but that was, I hate the fact that I lost that guitar. I've got one today that I bought later, but it's not the same. There's memories, there's stuff there. There was pictures on the guitar that I had put on there, like family photos and that kind of stuff, that are just gone forever. And it's kind of sad to me. I hate that. Nothing I can do about it, but And so that was Christmas in our household. Christmas was one of the biggest holidays. The other biggest holiday for us, and especially for my mom, was 4th of July. She loved the 4th of July. That was her favorite holiday, bar none. She would decorate all out. We'd do the fireworks every year. It was a big, big deal. I vaguely remember my first fireworks. We went to Red, White, and Boom in downtown Columbus. I couldn't have been more than a couple of years old. I don't remember like all of it. I remember like I can see flashes in my mind of the crowds. And some of that's probably like mixed in with other memories and stuff over time. But I do remember finding out when I was older that somebody had actually been stabbed in the crowd like 20 feet away from where we were sitting. And that was the first and last year that they ever took me to Red, White, and Boom. Once we moved to Mount Vernon, we started going to the fireworks every year. We always had a big cookout. We always had a big thing. Like all the family would come up for the 4th of July. Mom would set up. My uncle, my great uncle, who was her uncle, was a firefighter. He would bring fireworks up. We'd have the cookout, we'd have the fireworks, it was a good time. It was a blast. And that was every year until the year she died. She died on July 4th. It was her favorite holiday, and she wound up actually passing away on July 4th. So, for me, ever since then, the holiday's kind of been not as exciting. I still kind of, I like to see fireworks, but it's not the same for me, holiday-wise. So that's obviously a reason why that holiday is not the same. I've kind of gotten to the point now where it's not as bad as it used to be. This past year, I was excited it was the first year that I actually got to see the fireworks with my dad and my sister in years. And I was thinking about it when we were all sitting there, like it was the first year since basically 2005 when my mom passed away that we were all in one place to watch the fireworks. That was kind of a cool thing. But even then, like the 4th of July was a big holiday when I was a kid. It's okay now. It's not my favorite holiday, but it's not my least favorite holiday either. Thanksgiving, which, like I said earlier, as of this recording, is coming up. But by the time this comes out, will most likely be in the past. But Thanksgiving was always a good one too, because our family was always the one that everybody came to. Mom had a way of like making people come to her. She had the kids, so everybody had to come to her. It was weird because my uncle had kids too, but we didn't really go to his house usually. But we would always had a big Thanksgiving dinner, and it was always fun. You had football on TV, and Thanksgiving. It was bigger when I was a kid. We always watched the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. We always had the big dinner. Black Friday nobody really cared about Black Friday as far as like in our household. As far as I know, I don't remember my mom ever getting up and going out on Black Friday. But Thanksgiving was the holiday, and we always had the Pilgrims and the Indians was always a big thing in school too, because every single year for Thanksgiving, it was, you're making, we made Indian hats with like feathers on them. We made pilgrim hats. We went over the story of the first Thanksgiving. It was always this big deal. Not the biggest holiday, obviously, but it was still a pretty big holiday. Easter was the other one that it was iffy in our house. It was big as far as we always had an Easter egg hunt. My mom would hide all of the presents. So basically we get a bunch of like springtime presents. So like sidewalk chalk and bubbles and just outside stuff, but it would be hidden around the house and we'd all have to find our stuff. And it was hidden based on our ages. And like, she'd tell us, okay, this is, you're looking for this color basket. You're looking for this color basket. Our eggs were always in them because she'd put them in there like first thing in the morning. Stuff was hidden. It could be anywhere around the house. And we had what felt like a huge house. Going back to it nowadays, I've driven by it since I became an adult, and it doesn't look nearly as big as I remember it being. But it felt like a huge house at the time. There's a million places things could be hidden. So that was really all that we cared about for Easter until we got a little bit older. When Mom remarried Dad, we started going to church, and Easter was a big holiday for church. Obviously, we had gone to church when I was younger, but it was more when I got a little bit older, my teen years, we'd go to church. I actually got baptized on Easter one year, so that was about you had the Easter play, you had the Easter church when I was a teenager. Other than that, it was finding candy. It was another fun day, usually around spring break, that kind of stuff. So that was Easter, and then my personal favorite today is Halloween. And growing up, Halloween, I don't remember it particularly standing out as a big holiday, other than the trick-or-treating, of course. I remember dressing up. The most vivid memory I have from there's two big ones that I have from Halloween as a kid. One year I dressed up as Aladdin, and it was a kind of a thin costume, and it was snowing outside for trick-or-treat. I had to wear a coat under my Aladdin costume. It was cold. We were freezing. And then the other big Halloween memory was I had just learned this new rhyme that I wanted to use on a prospective house when we went up to trick or treat, and it was, and you'll probably recognize it when you hear it: trick or treat, smell my feet, give me something good to eat. And so I said this at a house, and I don't think my mom could have turned any redder than she got. She was, oh my God. She said, you need to apologize. And she's getting, we're going to have to just go straight home. I don't even remember what the person, like how they reacted. All I know is that Mom was just embarrassed as could be. That was just the kind of person she was. She wasn't easy, fun loving all the time. When we did things that she considered embarrassing, it was all over. And so, but I can't even remember if we just went straight home. We might have just gone straight home. I cannot remember for sure. I do remember being upset about it, that I'd gotten in trouble for that. I'm like, why did I get in trouble for this? But, it was always, the fall was always the fun time of year for me in general. Obviously because of all the big holidays, but and why Halloween sticks out to me now is because that was, especially around Halloween time, was the time of year that we would go out ghost hunting. And, we would pile in the car with, Mom, and she had a couple of different friends that would go with their kids, and we would all pile in the car. No matter which friend she picked, there were 6 kids. There was me and my 2 brothers, and then one of her friends had 2 boys and a girl, and then the other one had 2 girls and a boy. Like, so there's just some combination of children in the backseat. And we had a big Chevy Astro van that we would take, and we would drive the back roads of Knox County and that whole surrounding area, and looking for like creepy, spooky, haunted type of things. I was disappointed when I was a little bit younger, but as I started to get older, I got to finally start to go in some of the places with them, and all the other kids had to sit in the car, and I was like, yeah, this is so cool. But like, it was something that really built me up, and it gave me like this passion for searching for the unknown and ghosts and haunted stuff that kind of grew as I grew older, and became this passion that I have today for all things horror. Like that's why I write horror stories. That's why I do what I do with the different things that, my Patreon and everything I've got is horror themed, because I love that kind of stuff. As an adult, Halloween has become my favorite holiday by far. It's ahead of even Christmas. Christmas is my second favorite holiday. And I think all of that stems back to my memories of being when I was younger. But like I said at the beginning, like the way that things have felt the past few years, I don't know how much of it is just me and how much of it is just kind of things in general. I don't know how many other people out there feel the same way I do about, not as excited as I used to be for the holidays. I've been trying the past couple of years a lot more because I want to recapture some of that magic, and I want to give my kids that magic as they're getting older, because they're on their way out. My oldest is graduating high school in a year and a half, and the other two aren't far behind. I've got, in 5 years, all of my kids will have graduated high school. And that seems like a long time, but it's really not when you think of it in the context of 5 more Christmases, 5 more Halloweens, 5 more Thanksgivings. Like, the holidays are such an impactful time in your youth as you're growing older. And I think that can be forgotten about. And I feel like we're hitting this thing now where people are getting fatigued with everything that's hitting all the time, because we're always on. It's not like back then where things were, they felt like they moved at a slower pace. Now it seems like everything moves just so fast, and we're celebrating. We've got stores that have Christmas stuff out in August. Halloween stuff is on the shelves, and they're stocking Christmas stuff right beside it. And I just feel like if they would tone it back a little bit, let each holiday kind of have its time. But also, like, we've got to get the world's a mess. It's a pain. It's crazy out there. And I think everybody's just so wired and exhausted and stressed out. Companies have capitalized on Black Friday, everything. Hell, you get in the first week of November and it's like early Black Friday sales. It's nuts. And I don't know what the solution is. And I don't know if it's just me. If it is just me, I just have to accept that. But if it's not just me, you can let me know. Whether you're listening on Patreon or YouTube, you can comment and let me know what you think. Because at this point, I'm like, I don't know what to think about these holidays, the way that they're going. I want to recapture that magic. I want to kind of have some of that feeling back from when I was a kid, because I miss it. And when you realize how bad you missed that time, and you realize that you can't get that time back, it's like I talked about in the first episode that came out. You can't go home again. This is the long way home. Like, it's realizing that you can't get that magic back fully, but trying to capture something of it. And the holidays are a big part of that for me personally. But I'm interested to hear what any of you think out there. If you're listening on YouTube or Patreon, like I said, you can comment down below. Let me know what you think of the holidays. Let me know what you think of the podcast in general. I'm curious if you've listened this long. This is episode 2. If you got through episode 1 and episode 2, I assume you're enjoying it. And I've got a lot more stuff coming up. I've got a ton of topics I'm going to be covering in future episodes. This is only the beginning. I've got a lot of stuff that I want to cover, and I'm interested to see what you guys, if there's anything like this, you have memories that you might have, things that you might have gone through whenever you grew up. I'd love to hear about your stories too, so let me know those down in the comments as well. That's all I've got for now. I want to thank you all for listening, and everybody have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next one.